Welcome to Unlocking the Parenting Code. I'm Kathy, and this is the space where we dive into real-life parenting stories. Because let's face it, raising kids today can feel like trying to crack a complicated code. Together we'll explore the ups and downs, share insights, and swap tips that make this journey a little smoother. So grab a cup of coffee, relax, and let's unlock the parenting code together.
Today, I'm excited to introduce Vrushali. Vrushali is a dedicated entrepreneur and hands-on mother with a diverse 15-year background in the corporate world, spanning sectors such as education, the UK public sector, and veterinary practice administration. She's also someone who's been in the parenting village for 11 years. Vrushali, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and lovely to be on your podcast. Let's get it going.
Well, Vrushali, let's start with your personal parenting story and what challenges you faced, how you navigated the situation, and what you learned. It's really likely that someone listening to this episode at some point in time will hear something in your story that helps them along the parenting road.
Yes, you said that right. To begin with, parenting is a whole different, piece of challenge.
Mhm.
And everybody has their own different ways of looking at it, of doing it.
Yeah.
So yes, I think my story will just give a different perspective,
Mhm.
keeping in mind that everybody has their own different ways. So just take as much as you can from here. So I had a very typical traditional childhood. After childhood, at a certain age, I got married, and then we took a break. So this is where, I'm a very keen observer of people. So when I got married, I was always observing how do married couples behave, what what are the hurdles that they face. Do they live in a large joint family? Do they live in a nuclear family? Do both of them work? So all of these dynamics I was observing, which led me to looking at families with children. I'm like, okay, do I want to be a mother? How do I want to go about it? And then the nutrition part of it, work and stay at home and daycare and family support, all those dynamics were something I looked at. And then when I actually got into being a mom, 10 years after marriage, I had a lovely prenatal journey. It was beautiful. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Mhm.
After my son was born, I was like, yeah, cool. I'll just continue working because I had a very satisfying corporate career at that time with living with family and enjoying everything. And then my family support, which I had in place, just collapsed because, emergencies happen. And this is where life really gets in the way and teaches us what we want and what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And that is where my actual exploration of motherhood on my own, in terms of, I was 32 when my son was born. So I'm like, okay, I've got the education, I've got knowledge, I've got friends who are around, and I've got the internet. So let's just figure this out as we go step by step, taking, professional advice as I go. And that's what really helped me raise my son in a way that incorporated most of the goodness and learning from all the stumbles that I took. So that's my journey until today.
Wow. So initially, were you in an extended family situation that you were learning from extended family as well as your own circle of people?
That is correct. The extended family has been two married couples and an in-law.
Mhm.
And the elder married couple had their own two children as well, young children growing up, who I saw growing up in front of me. So they
Okay.
were like just learning for me as well how children grow up.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was the family we were in.
Some of the cultural differences, because of myself living in a lot of different cultures as well, it's very interesting because it gives you a very different twist on what kind of support you have. So it's actually very nice to hear of extended family being so involved. Okay, there was one other thing in the information that you shared with me beforehand about your parenting philosophy. You mentioned something that you follow a Kaizen approach. So when I read it, I thought, this is something I don't know. I haven't come across. It sounds like a Japanese term, but that can't be. She's in India. So anyway, I looked it up, and what I read was Kaizen is a term that refers to ongoing or continuous improvement. Originally, it was connected with businesses. That's how that started. And it says Kaizen translates to change for the better or continuous improvement, underscoring that small changes now can have big future impacts. Tell me about how you use this kind of approach in your parenting.
And you're absolutely right. It is change for the better, and Kaizen is a Japanese term,
Mhm.
which did come from my business days in the corporate world. I've
Okay.
always been, I read about Toyota production
Yep.
systems, and I got hooked onto just the way they work.
Hmm.
And they're always looking for improvements. They're always looking to not cut down costs, but look at waste management.
Better. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why don't I incorporate this
Mhm.
into every aspect of life that I can? Which is why, even as a parent, as a mom, it's like do Kaizen in my parenting journey has been simple things which would have taken up time otherwise. Like you, as a toddler growing up, you want 10 toys around the room. You want two, three books around the room. There are shoes, there's a stroller, there's a diaper bag. Instead of having it all strewn about the place, why not have a designated piece of furniture where I can, that's the place that they all go into. And then, like right now, you have home improvement stuff, you have drawers, and you have cupboards and stuff. At that time, 10 years down before, this was in place, but it was a very new concept, a trending concept. So
Mhm.
that's where Kaizen really helped me. I could close my eyes in the middle of the night when he needed a bottle feed and, walk down the hall into the kitchen, pick up the bottle, put the formula on whatever. So because I knew where everything was, and because I was practicing Kaizen,
Mhm.
it helped me not stress out unnecessarily or not stumble over toys and leftover, stuff around the floor.
So it helped you break down tasks and problems or whatever, break them down into smaller parts so you could be successful in the smaller parts and keep building onto that success. Is that what you mean?
You said it exactly right. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. It's very interesting. I really I I find it very interesting to take a business concept and be able to transfer that. Like it kind of shows that you're very open-minded. Good
Thank you
thinking,
for
very
that.
good thinking.
Yes. This all came through observation, I have to say. Looking around at people, I was like, and when you have a toddler and you go out, it's a whole process. You've got diapers, you've got change of clothes. I mean, you just can't pick up a handbag and your
Yeah,
toddler and go out. It does not work that way.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
want to have a stress-free day, and
That's
nor can you,
exactly right.
walk into a store and, pull out a swipe a card at every time, you need. So you've got a backpack, you've got stuff. And I'm like, well, I used to work and I did have an organized work culture there myself. So why not just bring about bits and pieces of that here? And looking at other parents and other families also, I'm like, okay, if they're doing this, oh, this is a good thing to observe. Oh, their child is always crying, or oh, they don't have they don't have a onesie when they go out for their child. I'm sure the child must be cold. And okay, when I have a child, I will get them to wear a onesie. I'll carry maybe booties fall off, so I'll carry extra pairs of booties and not really tops. I'll carry more bottoms. So that's where the concept of Kaizen I developed for parenting.
Wow, very interesting. That's very very cool. H- I want to move in a little bit to a parenting area that really causes a lot of parents discomfort and concerns, and it's about behavior and dealing with misbehavior and discipline and that kind of concept. And what I wanted to ask you was, because you seem to be very strong about communication, and I wonder, how has your communication changed over the years? Your son is 11 now. So how has your communication changed, and how did that connect with discipline and misbehavior? Because there is a big connection between behavior and communication, and some communication makes it very um, smooth, and some, often causes more problems than is necessary. So, how do you handle, or how have you handled communication and misbehavior, and how has it changed over the years?
Thank you for bringing this up. Yes, it is a subject that we can explore in detail. And I am so happy to have found, parents like you who are like-minded, and the support of each other is really necessary, although some may think it's really not, but that's really necessary. So when you have a support system and you find like-minded parents, stick to them, get connected with them. So communication, yes, thank you. Again, this was something, an aspect of my childhood which lacked. And as I grew up, as I became a mom, I'm like, oh, if my parents, well, we had, I'll give you an example. We used to go on weekend trips to nature, not in malls that time. So this was in my childhood. This is what, 30 years past. So malls wasn't a concept. We would go to parks. We would go to outdoor excursions. So my parents, I had a very lovely childhood. My parents never said, tomorrow we're going to X park. So what would you like to do there? This communication was missing. We would pack up hampers, we would take our clothes, and we would have our umbrellas and have a lovely time. When I became a parent, I'm like, well, what if I tell my son that today we're going to visit the zoo? Today we're going to just walk to the bus stand and then take a bus to the garden. Today we're going to go to the local community garden and look at the flowers growing there. And the reason I started communicating also was when I would all get organized with my backpack and all the stuff, and I would pick up my son and move out of the house. He would have been playing with, for example, his favorite toy, or scrunching up his favorite piece of paper book, and just picking him up and moving him out of this comfortable environment he was in made him insecure. As children, their vocabulary was not developed enough to tell me, Mom, don't, I want to do something else. So he did the next best thing. He cried. When children cry, it's disturbing, and my mind would shut down because that sound was, a whole different pitch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, why does he have to cry all the time? Can I do something differently? So I started 5 minutes before leaving. I would say, dear son, let's go to the garden. I am getting stuff ready and we'll all go and have a good time. That stopped his crying. Over a week, over 7, 10 days, I realized that he's not crying anymore. He gets uncomfortable, he gets fidgety, but he then, and it's not like he would not enjoy the time outside, but just that moment of picking him up and going out was a whole disturbance, which completely stopped. And it didn't reduce, it completely stopped. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, which is when I started communicating more and more. Then I experimented with communication styles. I experimented with difficult language in terms of, as adults, the words that we use and the words I would use with my son as a toddler. I would say, when he would climb, my house has windows. It's like French windows, and they are not like just open. They have iron bars,
Mhm.
and he would want to climb them, which is fine. But as an adult, I would say, because it's unsafe, he doesn't know what to do. I would put a mattress on the ground, And then while he was climbing, one of the bars, I would put my hand above his head and I would say, ah, something that, because he relates to that.
Mhm.
And then he started understanding that if his head hit the iron bar, it would hurt. And I would go, ah, but I wouldn't cry. I would just go, ah, and do sort of a funny dance there. So I made fun out of it. And he didn't fall because I was always there. It was always supervised parenting. But he learned that he had to hold on tight or stuff like that, which is where I incorporated communication.
So it's like with most parents and actually in the classroom as well, the most difficult times are transition times because it is hard to move from one thing to another. And um, the other point that I took from what you said is that so much of successful communication with anybody, with a child, with an adult, with anybody, is all concerned with the basis of respect. So if you respect that that child is involved in something, and you explain, why there's going to be a change and give them a heads up so they can prepare for it, then respectfully, they will take that information and the transition will be smoother. So, yeah, transitions can be a very difficult thing.
Yes,
For,
indeed. Thank you for
Vishal,
saying that.
oh yeah, well, especially being a classroom teacher, like that was one of the first tricks that you had to come up with, especially with the younger children, because it's not easy for transitions and for waiting and those kinds of things. So yes, there are things you can do using humor, using songs, all that kind of stuff.
When you said classroom teacher, this memory came up. And before that, I have to acknowledge the teachers who teach Montessori, pre-primary, daycare. They've got their work cut out for them, and it takes a lot of patience and love to deal with, that age of children. So when my child first started daycare or pre-primary school, Montessori, we built it up again with communication, that you'll meet friends, you'll draw, you'll paint, you'll work with, you'll put your hands in soil, you'll have fun. And we go to school, and out of the 15-20 children that were there, 10 of them were crying, which was fine. He wasn't really into, he hadn't understood that. And then the crying wouldn't stop. So and I could see him relating that, okay, the majority are crying, so I should cry.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever understood why he cried. So that was so much fun to watch, because we had built it up to be
Yeah.
an exciting day. And for him, excitement was to cry. I was like, bless you, and just go and learn and have a good day.
Well, that's actually one of the things, like when we had a school that was an international preschool, and one of the things, and throughout other positions, one of the things that I would always tell parents, especially of younger children when they were first starting school, was after they transitioned in, when the parent goes to say goodbye. And I know how hard it is because I really struggled when our son first started into childcare, but to the point that I couldn't do it. My husband had to take him because it was too hard for me, because of the crying. And what I used to tell parents who were in the same position was, no matter how hard it is, the parent needs to, have a big smile, a big, see you later, I'll be back, love you, you're going to have fun, have a good time, bye, and leave. So the last thing that the child sees is this happy mom going. The opposite, happens when our children see us looking distressed. Even if initially they don't feel distressed, but if they see you crying as you're saying goodbye and you're walking out because you're traumatized, then they're going to think they're not in a safe environment. If mom is crying and she's upset, then so our messages to our children, whether it's from our actions or our words, are really, really important. So yeah, that was a good one. Um, Another area, you've touched on it a little bit, but how have you been able to foster independence with your son and a sense of kind of responsibility? Like I know some parents will, or we actually tried it for a while ourselves, this idea of chores and getting an allowance for them or this or that. And so I learned a lot of things, when boots were on the ground. And I'm always interested to see how other parents promote independence and responsibility in doing things like that. How did you handle it?
And it's an integral part of life skills that children need to learn. Um, it was instilled in me as a young child, and I really appreciate how that has taken me through many turbulent times in life.
Yeah.
So it's very important. I fostered independence by minimizing me saying no. I would say no in different ways. I wouldn't use the word no. So when my toddler started walking, and he would pick up toys and put them, we had a designated toy basket area. He would himself pick up toys and put them in. Some of the toys, like, a toy train or a toy truck, were a little heavy, and he would stumble and stuff like that. I wouldn't stop him. I would try and say, well, is there a different way you can pick this up? Do you want to drag out the basket, or do you want to make a wheeler? Anything that he understood and tried out himself. By giving him a solution, I felt I was stopping his independence and responsibility line of thought. We never know where a good thought can come from, and there are different ways to do an activity. So this is how fostering independence for me meant you not saying the word no, saying it differently. Every time he came and asked me a question which involved him doing an activity, helping around the house. Mom, may I make chai? Well, you know, and the reason I find saying no in terms of, we're on a time schedule. By in 10 minutes, I've got to get the tea going. I've got to get stuff going. Then I've got to send him off to school. I can't get up at 5 a.m. and loiter around the kitchen for 4 hours just because my son takes it into his head and wants to help me around, which is the reason for saying no for pushing a child away. When I realize that he wants to help out, again, because of communication, I would start an activity 30 minutes early. When I noticed him coming into the kitchen and say, Mom, can I bring out carrots from the fridge? I would say yes, but I would say, do it carefully. Or I would say, pick out a small one, so that I could finish up doing what I was doing. And it felt like he was helping. Great. That was one instance. Going out, he would say, can I ride my bicycle today? And I was like, well, in my mind, all this was happening in my mind. Well, I've got to meet my friend, or I've got to get the cooker done. There's something on the stove that's happening, and I really can't do that. So I would say, and these were building blocks in his independence. I'm like, okay, before that, so I would try and procrastinate for him, like saying, what outfit are you going to wear? It's summer outside. Can you pick up the red colored outfit? Can you pick up a yellow colored outfit? And I was trying. So this was building up his, motor skills, his high eye-hand coordination, his thought process. So these small steps, I believe, helped in getting him to be independent. Like now, he is in primary school, and he sorts his bag out, all his school books. He gets his school uniform ready. So his school routine he does on his own. When he comes back home from school, he's got, and it's when it's laundry day and all the clothes have been washed. So he's got to pick out a new set of clothes to wear at home. He's very color coordinated. He won't wear green tops and bottoms. He will, mix and match them. He will, he, first of all, it's independent. He won't tell me that Mom, I've come home from school. I need clothes to wear. He will take rest. He will tell me how the day went, of course, with some prompting, but then he'll go into he wants to pick out his own clothes. So, not saying no, giving his imagination a different way, and, getting him to begin small and then just building on that, I think is how I built independence, which also led to him. I praised him a lot when he got out a nice set of clothes. I would say, good job. This is both cotton. It's going to sit so nicely on your body. It's going to be so warm. Good boy. Well done. I'm going to call up your grandparents and tell them you did a good job. I'm going to tell your teacher you did a good job. I'm going to give you a star. It need not be cash. It need not be candy all the time. I would get shiny gift wrapping paper and fashion stars out of them and say, this is your star for the day. And for me as a child, when my parents, because for me, I am like 1 foot tall and my parents are 5 feet tall. It's a normal height, but there's a difference in that height. And that makes me feel that they are bigger than me, larger than life. And when a larger than life person smiles and gives me a gold star, it makes me feel on top of the world. And I want to keep doing more of that. So this is how I built up.
So, Vrushali, that all of that information sounds that it's geared towards the younger child, like building up this sense of independence and responsibility from the young age. But now that your son is 11, how do you handle things like independence and discipline and communication? Like, what are some of the things that you do today that they all follow through with how he's been raised up till this point? But what does independence, or what does you know children make mistakes, and they get in trouble, and how we react to those um, is influenced by how we have raised them. So as an 11-year-old boy, how do you handle things like that? How do you handle misbehavior?
Right. This is a very thought-provoking question. I keep a straight face. Two things that really have helped our relationship and have helped him um, learn what not to do are that I am always there to listen to him. So I will sit down, I will compose my face. Um, when it is something he's done which needs disciplining, he knows that disciplining is different. Punishment or getting angry and discipline are two different things. As an 11-year-old, he's almost a teenager now. Oh my
Mhm.
God, I've just realized that. He can always talk to his parents. It's a safe space to talk, whether it's something that he's heard in school, whether it's bad words or whether his teacher scolded him, or whether he got into trouble at school, or whether he did something with his friends that he doesn't know whether he wants to share it with his parents. I give him space. I give him like 7 days of time to do his own thing. He can talk to friends. He can go out with them. He can potter around the house. He can do his extracurricular activities. If he doesn't talk to me about what his day has been going about on his own, after 7 days, I will prompt him. What did you do on day one? What did you do on Monday? What did you do on Tuesday? I noticed your trousers had a tear. Did you get into a scruffle? Did you get hurt? So keeping a safe space,
Yeah, can I just
knowing
jump
that.
in for 1 second? I'm getting what you're saying. I'm wondering though, how do you handle it if you have to address it immediately? Say you get a call from the school and they tell you that he has been in some kind of a scuffle, and would you please come and pick him up? In that moment, what do you do? Like, do you still give him those 7 days to be able to talk to you?
Right. No, in that case, this is a different situation. I will immediately go to school. So we'll take this situation and see what I do in that instance. So when I get a call from his teacher because he hasn't done his homework or he's been in a scuffle with other children, I will go to school. In front of him, I will never put the teacher down. There's always two sides of the story. I'll never put any of them down. I will tell my child that, have you misbehaved in that moment? You have to say sorry. Whatever else, we'll deal with everything else later. In that moment, he's got to acknowledge that he did something, he had a reaction, and he's got to say sorry for the reaction for that. Then I will speak to the teacher, what happened, I'll understand better. I'll speak to the other parent whose child has, been taken the, took the brunt of my son's misbehavior. I will personally apologize to them as well. And then I will take this matter up with my child in the safety of our home. But in the school environment, I will listen to the teacher, I will acknowledge the other parents, and I will make my son say sorry. um, Saying sorry, acknowledging misbehavior is not failure, it's room for improvement. And in that case, I will become a stern looking, fierce looking parent who still has his back, but this is room for improvement. Dear son, you did something wrong. You had a reaction. We need to acknowledge that. So please say sorry.
So
In that case, there are non-negotiables.
what would the
There are
consequences be?
non-negotiables.
And what would the
Yes.
consequences be?
So I don't use physical punishment, physical disciplining.
Yep.
I know what he doesn't like to do. For example, we have morning, sun salutations, which are different yoga postures. Some of them are difficult to do. I will say, well, sun salutations, today you would have just done one set. Tomorrow you will do 3 sets. So the intensity of the punishment in what he doesn't like to do comes up. If he doesn't like to do math more than he does like to do science, I will say, well, you've got 2 fractions to solve more than usual.
Okay, that's an interesting way.
I have found out, yes, I have found out that, oh, I don't want to do this. He'll think twice. Much easier than, because I do have a stick at home. I do have physical disciplining objects sitting in the house. It's just that I don't use them. I'm like, it's there. Do you want me to use them? And he realizes that doing what he doesn't want to do hurts more than anything else.
Okay, so carrying on with this part of it, what would your definition be of success? A parent who is successful. What would that look like? Any parent. I'm not talking about you, but what do you think is a successful parent? I can't hear you.
Thank you for that. In one sentence, parent success would be when child has grown up and moved on, I can relax at home and sip my cup of coffee without constantly worrying about what my child is doing, what my child has gotten into, and do I need to go save the day? If I can do that because drinking my cup of coffee in the day is my comfort job to do. If I can do that much, I think I've succeeded at parenting.
So in thinking about that, what's your biggest current struggle, your biggest challenge right now in parenting?
My biggest challenge in parenting will be in this world of internet, looking at stuff that's happening out there, mirroring that onto my son and stressing out. It's never happened. It may not happen. It may not happen to that intensity, but the news, the stuff out there, oh my God, my son is involved. I think That's my parenting struggle.
Yeah, that's a very serious and common one because it's kind of the new frontier, and that's a worry for a lot of parents, and it should be. There's a lot that's not regulated enough now that it's still not that safe space for young children. Well, you've given me lots to think about. I'm sure the people listening to this will also be very interested to hear the things that you've been able to share with us. So, for fun, just before we move on to the last question, if you were thinking right now of a title for a movie about your family, what would it be? And then what would be the synopsis of that movie?
Okay, movie title and synopsis. You know, uh, so we want to look at something that looks dramatic on paper. And I would say, if I have a boring child, I am the happiest parent, because boring doesn't mean dull. It means that their life is so sorted. At the center of their core, they are happy, and happy people don't go around, disturbing others in the wrong way, is what I would say. So the title of the movie would be, now we'll have to work around with this title because it's not dramatic enough, but I would say My Boring Child or My
Okay.
Boring Parenting Style.
Okay, that could be a blockbuster at some point. All right, as we wrap up today's episode, I have one more question for you. I want you to picture yourself sharing some wisdom with your son as he is preparing to enter the world of parenting himself. So when your first grandchild is ready to join you, what what wisdom will you share with your son about parenting?
Oh, thank you. What wisdom would I share with my son about parenting is smile, enjoy every moment of your time. They just grow up so fast. I mean, he's 11 now. Um, Learn from your mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes. There's no going around that. But that's not a setback. It's a great way to learn from them. So that's the advice I would give.
Very nice. Vrushali, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for all of the stories and tidbits and advice that you've been able to share about your own personal parenting journey.
If you're a parent raising a boy in today's complex world, be sure to explore sonhoodcoaching.com. You'll discover expert guidance and support designed to help you unlock your full parenting potential. As Amelia Gambetti says, this job is too difficult and too beautiful to do alone. Together we can explore this adventure and discover the magic of raising boys.